This may be one or two parts here. I'm gonna run through some of this stuff here. We'll see how far we get, and we're gonna take a look at our good buddy Tom Lyden, Fox 9 News reporter, and this report that he put out in early 2016. January 11th, 2016 looks like when this broadcast first. So we'll go ahead and do a little screen share here. And let's go ahead and we'll take a listen and watch. Not sure how well my audio is going to come out, so I'm actually going to run a little test here before we get there. I do not have my regular audio today. Apologize for that. Such is life, right? I've been wanting to look at some of Tom Lyden stuff for a while. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, audio's pretty bad here. So we'll see. Let's see how far I get. May have to redo this one later on as well. Let me go and see if I can adjust this mic setting. Microphone. Speed is fine. Speech recognition. Just want the microphone. Okay, I guess. Just have permissions there. All right. Well, we'll just make do with the best that we can do here with the short amount of time we have. Such is life, right? It sure is. Okay, let's see. That's not okay. Input. Let's see if this changes anything here. All right, testing 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. A little better. All right, here we go. Enough of that. Let's look at Tom Lyden and his news report here. This should be fun. All right, let me start and play this here. Go full screen. Gotta love StreamYard here. Okay, let's go.
New and disturbing details we've never heard before. Tom Lyden of the Fox 9 Investigators has been given unprecedented access, and he's here to tell us what he's learned. And Tom, some of this will be very difficult to hear.
Some of it will be, but I think you're going to see that it's important at this point to really get all the facts out on the table. I think that's the most important thing here. For the last year, this case has become the subject of much speculation and plenty of theories on the internet, most of it completely wrong. The reality is the truth of what happened.
Oh yeah, that's pretty bad too. Yeah, definitely having some audio issues there. So let's see, can I change the speakers? I may need to actually just plug in. Oh, live tests. This is what happens, right? Okay. Okay, there we go. Let's try this again. You have to hear Tom Lyden again, guys. All right, January 11th, 2016.
And he's here to tell us what he's learned. And Tom, some of this will be very difficult to hear.
Some of it will be, but I think you're going to see that it's important at this point to really get all the facts out on the table. I think that's the most important thing here. For the last year, this case has become the subject of much speculation and plenty of theories on the internet, most of it completely wrong. The reality is the truth of what happened to David Crowley.
So there it is. We got to get all the facts out, right? It's all about the facts right there. So he wants to put all of that out. Guess how many facts are in this news report that come out? I bet you can guess how many are and how many aren't. All right. This guy's too much, man. So, but it's just interesting that he makes sure to put that out there for people. Okay, so let's continue on.
Crowley and his family is stranger and sadder than anyone imagined.
Yeah, it's stranger and sadder.
To the right of the RPC.
Yeah, it's stranger and sadder because this guy could not get some of these simple, basic things right. Number one, what proves David Crowley guilty? Couldn't even get that right. So that's the strangest and saddest thing here so far.
Dead bodies inside the house, dog inside, see the gun in the house on the floor.
To look at the three of them through the Instagram filter of life, it's hard to imagine how it all went so wrong. David Crowley, a talented, promising young filmmaker, his smart and beautiful wife, Kamel, a dietitian, and their adorable 5-year-old daughter, Rania, living on a quiet street in Apple Valley, in a home that contained their many dreams and one horrific nightmare.
This is the ideal family, seemingly, and everything went terribly wrong.
My impression is it was very intense in the early days.
Everything went terribly wrong. And you can see in this news report here, 14 minutes, they're never able to prove what they believe went terribly wrong. They're never able to prove any of that. They're never able to tie this crime to David Crowley. Isn't that interesting?
Of this investigation.
Apple Valley police recently closed their exhaustive year-long investigation, and for the first time are sharing their findings with the Fox 9 investigators.
The Fox 9 investigators.
As you sit here today, a year later, do you have an idea of what those final moments looked like?
It was horrifying. You have a tragic loss of an entire family. It looks like David snapped and took the lives of his wife and daughter.
He says it's horrifying when being asked what it was like in those last days. And yet he doesn't give any indication, any evidence of showing what it was like in those last days. That's pretty horrifying to me.
And then ultimately himself. And it was a very sad scene, during the holidays, a beautiful family, and just tragically lost.
And from the start,
beautiful family, just tragically lost. But again, not giving you any of those quote-unquote facts that Tom Lyden says that we have, or that is most important. He admits that. It's most important to get the facts. We all would agree on that. I sure would hope so, right? Unless you're hiding something about this case, you would definitely want to agree on that. Unless you really hate David and you just want to believe that he's this murderer, this gruesome killer. Otherwise, you would definitely want the facts, and you would want to make sure that we get those. We don't get those here. Spoiler alert. We don't get those here.
The case wrapped in suspicion and mystery.
Here's the red flags.
With paranoid theories all over the internet.
Guys out here going after the truth get knocked off.
That the Crowleys were murdered as some kind of government conspiracy.
Isn't it a paranoid theory to say that this guy snapped? That he killed his family? Wouldn't that be a paranoid theory? That's what I would say it is. And who do you blame for that paranoid theory? The police? But they only want to look at one side of it. They want to look at what they think, the paranoid theory. Wouldn't it be paranoid? Wouldn't it be presumptuous? Wouldn't it be wrong to accuse somebody without some quote-unquote facts, some evidence?
Did the government want to silence him and his film?
All because of a personal...
They only give you two sides that you can join in on. They either say David snapped or the government did it. That's it. That's all they're giving you. They're playing with your mind. They're treating you like little children, and they're hoping that you will just go away. Stop paying attention to this. Forget about David Crowley. Tuck your tail and run. And you know what? Unfortunately, a lot of people did that. But it ain't going to happen here.
No film project David Crowley had worked on obsessively for years, called Gray State.
They always, and that's the other thing, these key words, obsessively. He was working on this obsessively. He was working on other things too. And he wasn't the only one who was working on this. So any obsession, you can't just give all of that credit to just David, right? There's other people working on this stuff too. How come they don't get accused of the obsessive aspect of this, right? It's just David. He's the only one who's obsessed, even though you have all these other people who want to take credit, who won't be saying, I was there, we were part of it, etc., etc. But David is the only one obsessing over it. Really interesting thinking here. But those key words, and we're going to hear a lot of that throughout this horrible news report, sloppy mention report. I'm going to give you the worst.
This is a concept trailer for Gray State, which imagines the U.S. government taking away all our liberties. FEMA turning into a militarized, occupying police force.
In short, the Gray State is the culminating manifestation of the darkest trends our negligence and malignancy have to offer.
Because I think at the tail end of it, he was living the Gray State.
Danny Mason was a co-producer on Gray State.
It almost embodied him, almost to the extent of where it would dictate a lot of his thoughts and his ideas and his, I guess, outlook in reality.
Investigators spent months sifting through 20 terabytes of video. David Crowley.
Guess what they found? Sifting through all of those terabytes of video of everything. Guess what they found to help prove David Crowley guilty? Nothing.
He had kept on more than a dozen hard drives, looking for clues.
How much of this do you think had to do with the film?
I think a great deal. From all
I
accounts,
think a great deal, meaning we don't know anything. We think this, we think that, but what do we know? Nothing. That is such a key phrase here, such a key part of this. It's just fascinating how crazy this is.
he was consumed with producing this film, and
again, we're going back to the obsession, the consume. Danny Mason is saying it. All these people got their ducks lined in a row, all lined up. The same story, same thing, the same phrase. I want you to look at this guy's face here for a minute here. I'll be right back, folks. Continue on.
it's a dark topic. You're talking about conspiracy theories and potentially the fall of society. And if you're focusing on that day in and day out, and those are materials you're working with, and you're filming exclusively on that topic, that can take you to a very bad place.
That's the thing. It can take you to a very bad place, but there's no evidence showing that it took David to a very bad place. This was taking David to other places. This was David getting his foot in the door, moving forward, planning for other projects, using this as a stepping stone to get in to the Hollywood world. He hadn't made it into Hollywood yet.
Do you think he literally went down the rabbit hole of these conspiracy theories and just couldn't separate himself from it?
I believe so.
And how does that equate to murder? How does any of that equate to murder? There has to be some evidence. They have to be able to provide some facts here. That is their job. I think so. We think. We believe. It's never what they know. It's never what they know, and it's never what they can prove, because they can't prove anything. This report pretty much lays it all out. It pretty much lays out the foundation for Eric Nelson's sloppumentary, A Gray State. It's all connected. Alec Wilkinson's news report, Death of a Dystopian. These three projects are all tied in. They're all related. They were all being made at the same time. They were all being made for the same purpose. And they all had the same message. That's coordination.
In the summer of 2014, Crowley traveled to Hollywood to meet with producers interested in Gray State. But by fall, the deal had fizzled, and the couple began withdrawing from friends and family. Kamel had told her family,
"This is not true." Now, we only know this because Dan Hinnon spoke with Mike Boggio of Michael Entertainment Group. We know the deal did not, quote unquote, falter. There was no faltering of a deal. The deal was there. The deal was in the works. The deal only died because David died. They don't tell you that. And they know this stuff. I know they know this. If we know it, they know it. But they hide it. They're twisting it. They're not being honest to their viewers. And that's a big problem. Because it shouldn't be about them trying to prove David Crowley guilty in the court of public opinion. If they could, they would have. And they tried, but they failed. And they're going to keep failing. The truth is not on their side. Because the truth is simple, and the truth does not change. In order to say that it's true David Crowley killed his family and killed himself, you have to present some facts. And if you can't, then don't be frustrated. Don't be mad at the people that call you out on it. Be mad at yourself for believing something as stupid as that. That's who you need to be mad at. And what else could you be tricked on? If you're so easily tricked by that, boy, I don't know. You could be tricked by a lot of different things at that point. And that's not good. That's not what the world needs. That's not what this country needs. Especially if we really want to find out what happened here. You do an investigation to find out what happened. You don't begin with the theory that David Crowley is guilty. You begin with that theory, chances are you're probably going to come up with some things. Unfortunately, they couldn't even do that. All they could say in the end was, well, we couldn't find anybody else that did it, so it must have been David. This is why this is such a slam dunk case here. Only a few minutes in. But this is why this case is just such a very simple slam dunk case. For this reason.
She was the sole breadwinner, that she was not physically or emotionally abused. But
the thing was, the sole breadwinner, again, it really, and we talked about this recently on one of the recent podcasts, like, who was taking care of who? Was David taking care of her? Was she taking care of David? I mean, to me, with the $14,000 check in their mailbox, or not in their mailbox, left on their doorstep from David's dad, there's a pretty good argument he was taking care of them. He was going to take care of them. He wasn't going to let them fall or struggle where they would descend into this madness or anything like that. Sounds like they were going to be taken care of. And then we know the $30 million deal and all that stuff. Not that David was going to get $30 million, but the budget, what they were budgeting for this project was about $30 million, according to the Michael Entertainment Group. We don't see that here. It doesn't fit in with their narrative. It doesn't fit in with what they want you to think about David Crowley. These people are very desperate. Tom Lyden just comes off as very desperate. The police come off, not the whole police, but this captain or Chief Wrightskull, I think, comes off as very desperate to try to convince people that David Crowley did this without giving you any factual data that says this is why he did it. really based on his movie, he killed his family and killed himself, and all. Really, we're supposed to believe all that with everything that we know about what happened inside of that house. We're supposed to believe, oh yes, it has everything. They believe it has a lot to do with his movie. Come on.
The financial struggles made her question the marriage.
The financial struggles they were talking about, I don't know. I mean, you can argue that either way, but again, both of the parents, David's parents and Kamel's parents, were both helping them. A $14,000 check on their front doorstep, I think they would have been all right for at least another year or so. What do you think? Kamel's father is the one who bought David a car, I think, for his birthday, and was paying their phone bills up until like October of 2014. Some of the issues that have been reported about Kamel's family and David, I think, are greatly exaggerated. That's what I think. I could be wrong, but from what I've heard, there wasn't that much of a big problem. From what we've heard from Kamel's father, wasn't that much of a problem. No.
He just lost his way, financially lost his way.
See, when you say he financially lost his way, and this guy is supposed to be a friend of David Crowley, that David financially lost his way. What does that mean? Did he have millions and then he lost it? Was he broke? Was he going broke? No. And Mason Hendricks was a guy who was not very happy that the $14,000 check was mentioned in the police reports. Why do you think that was? That doesn't fit in with what he's telling you here, right? Because he's telling you they've financially lost their way, and then come to find out there's a $14,000 check on the front door. And then David has a working deal. We come to find that out. Why are these people lying? Why are they trying to steer a narrative that doesn't need to be steered? State whatever you think. State your opinions, but man, have it based on something. Don't just discredit your friend, a soldier, a filmmaker, a young man. Let everything going for him. Don't just discredit it without having some basis in facts. And they don't. They don't have any facts. That's why this guy won't ever debate me, which he should. He should. But he politely declined. And there's very few people that would even be worth the time to debate. I think we can all agree on that. This guy would be one of them. Danny August Mason would be another one. David's brother would be another
one. Life, stress.
When his friend Mason Hendricks stopped by to see him,
he's guessing. Life, stress. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. Just like he's just making it up as he goes along here. Just making it all up. Very sad. Sad stuff, guys and gals. Okay, let's keep going.
Like meeting someone he didn't know. David wouldn't even invite him in the home.
He looked like he literally was sleeping and breathing on his computer. Failure was not an option for him.
By October,
That's another interesting quote. I did put that in my book. Failure was not an option for him. But then he's going to say, this guy pretty much gives you more motive why David wouldn't kill himself, because failure is not an option. But then he kills himself as the only option. I mean, this guy, Mason Hendricks, just really does not make sense. His story does not line up. It just does not add up. I just feel like he's just blowing smoke out of his ass, pretty much. He's just making it up as he goes along. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt about it. Best case scenario, at least.
Family was essentially cut off from the world. David and Kamel stopped talking to their families, asking everyone to stay away, even changing their phone numbers.
See, they don't mention the changing the phone number. They didn't change their phone numbers. Kamel's dad stopped paying the bills, so they had to get new phone numbers. And they gave David's brother and gave David's mom and gave David's dad his new number. They all got his new number before he died. Why isn't Tom Lyden telling you that? I mean, this is another hit piece on David Crowley, and there's no need for it. Just give us the facts, tell us what you know, but making up all this stuff that can be completely disproven, I mean, it raises eyebrows to these guys. Why would they do this? Are they that dumb? Tom Lyden is supposed to be a journalist, and he doesn't know better? He has no journalistic ethics? No knowledge of how to do a journalism piece? Or is there more to it?
Brother left their Christmas presents on the front step to avoid a confrontation.
He mentions the brother left the Christmas presents on the front door. But what does he not mention? What does he forget to mention? The $14,000 check in this brown paper bag here. He wasn't just leaving presents. He was leaving mail there too. Why'd you forget that, Tom? So it makes me wonder, were people just feeding Tom Lyden stuff like people may have been feeding other people things? To only focus on certain things? To avoid certain facts of this case? Pretty interesting stuff here. We're not done with Tom Lyden by a long shot. Now, I know in the past, in the podcast that we've done a while ago, thought we were going to be done with Tom Lyden, but obviously that is not the case. So as time goes on, time wanders on, and we'll I don't know, we'll continue here. The audio may not be that great, so I may end up redoing all of this here. Sometimes it's better the second time around, right? So we'll see if this makes, I know the audio is bad because I don't have my regular microphone here, but you know, I've been wanting to talk about this for a very, very long time, and I'm just glad I'm able to now. These few minutes I have left here, we will try to get through this. Can we make it? All right, so moving on.
And there the gift stayed for 3 weeks, until January 17th last year.
For 3 weeks. So again, they have to make sure they push the 3-week narrative, which is not based on the autopsy reports. It's based on David's internet activity. It's not based on the decomp rate. It's based on the internet activity. It's based on the activity from the house, as if that means that they're all dead. All right. We're not going to look at any other scenarios. We're not going to look at possible hostage situations or anything like that. No, we're just going to focus on the one thing there, and that's it. And that's what they do. I mean, it's just, and it's interesting. You see one person do it, then you see a few people do it, and then all of a sudden you have a lot of people doing it, and it's not just one person. I think that's what makes it very interesting to me. That it's like a program. There's just different people following along with this program here and just going along with it. I don't understand it, to be honest with you, but yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I don't get it. So anyways, I'll continue on a little bit here. Let's continue on.
Her neighbors discovered the 3 bodies looking in the front window. A sliding back door was found slightly ajar, apparently for the family dog. But there were no footprints in the snow, no sign of forced entry. Inside, detectives would find a scene of domestic horror.
Domestic
normalcy.
horror.
Teasing
They
with-
would find really a scene of domestic horror. Did you hear what he said there? A scene of domestic horror. Man, this guy's, it's too much. Definitely not a journalist. A reporter. I don't know if you would even call him that. Something very, very strange. I mean, domestic scene of horror. They're just feeding on different people, and it's sad. You know, it's really sad how people can buy into it. I don't know. I'm just, yeah, I don't really know. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. So, it's just, I'm sorry. It's just too much. It's too much. These guys are too much.
Little love notes the couple left for each other around the house. An innocent child's room. Much of the crime scene itself we will not show you.
Oh,
All
yeah,
three
much of the crime scene we will not show you. They don't show you anything. What are they showing you here? They're not going to show you the bullet that was in the attic that the police missed. They're not going to show you the bullet that rolled out of this carpet over here, where this number 2 is. A bullet rolls out of the carpet 2 days later that the police missed. If they can miss bullets, don't you think they could miss anything that would show David Crowley did this? Of course. So it all comes back to, well, then what do they prove? What do they use to prove David Crowley did this? This. I apologize for this. Okay. There it is. All right. So that's good.
Bodies were found in the living room next to each other. They were badly decomposed and scavenged by the family dog. Judging by the male
Okay,
pilot,
so that's the other thing. They're badly decomposed, which if you've watched any of Catherine's videos, any of Sophia's videos that they've done, you know, the decomp rate, there's early to moderate in the autopsy results are what matter. Early to moderate is what they show. Heavily decomped is what is in the police reports by police officers, but the autopsies clearly show early to moderate. So that's why it's like, how long were these bodies there for is another big thing. So they can't really prove how long the bodies were there for. They can't even prove that David shot anybody. They can't prove any of this stuff. They can't even prove that the dog ate these bodies. We can assume the dog did, and I'm willing to assume that they did. We spoke with many, we've had several people speak with many veterinarians, and we get a different answer every time, unfortunately, or maybe that's good. Maybe that's good because it allows us, hopefully it keeps us keeping an open mind to, we don't really know. And the problem is because the police did not do any tests, they don't really know. They don't really know if the dog ate any of those bodies. That's the sad thing. One test would have probably done that. There's a lot of tests that they don't do. And I don't know the difficulties or the prices or all of that, what it would be, but it just seems kind of logical to me that nobody is reporting that the dog had blood or anything like that on its mouth or on its teeth or anything like that, which we've talked when Krippert talked with one vet up in Canada. I said, well, the dog could have licked it all off, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. But again, it's like, well, what are they using to prove that the dog was sitting there eating anything? They didn't see the dog eating the bodies. They didn't do any tests that would show that the dog ate these bodies. So what are they basing it on? If the bodies are so quote unquote heavily, if the decomposition rate is so far in, how would they even know? And it raises so many other questions. There's so many other things. You can go back and look at the body placements and how the bodies were. David's hand is sticking up in the air for any dog to eat. Doesn't eat it, but eats the other hand. And then Rania, he goes after her whole arm, eats her whole arm, somehow breaks her third rib, but doesn't eat her other hand. Then goes after Kamel, eats her head, eats her body, eats her, or her, not her body, but eats her arms. I'm sorry, not her arms, her hands, her two hands. One hand that is above her head, other hand that is pretty much under her body. And this dog eats all of that from what they're telling us. It's very interesting. I don't know. I find it interesting, at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but
up and a paper in the home. The murder-suicide took place the day after Christmas. David shooting Kamel twice in the head, Rania once, before shooting himself. Between their bodies, a Quran with pages torn out, opened to a traditional forgiveness prayer. And there on the wall, above the bodies.
And this is where it gets interesting. Maybe I should go back a few seconds here.
David shooting Kamel twice in the head.
Shooting Kamel twice in the head. Can't prove it. We don't know he shot her. But we're just going to assume. That's all they're doing. They're assuming David did this.
Rania once, before shooting
and
himself.
And shot his daughter, and then shot himself. You'd think they would have something here to back this up. They don't.
Between their bodies, a Quran.
This is another interesting. Between their bodies, a Quran. The Quran was very close to David's left hand. It was very bloody. And so he just happened to draw. If you look at where the Quran is, where it was placed next to David's body, it looks like it was placed there next to David's body. Not that David was doing this weird ritual or ripping out pages and then set it right there. Come on. It's not in the middle of these bodies. It's closer to David's left leg, really. But also, these pages are everywhere. They're everywhere. They're on the other side of Kamel. They're on several sides of Kamel. It's just very interesting where they are.
With pages torn out, opened to a traditional forgiveness prayer.
And this is interesting too, the open to a traditional forgiveness prayer. You can see where it's
pages
open
torn
to.
Out.
So pages torn out. See, he goes from the Quran to pages that are torn out, right? So is the pages open to a forgiveness prayer? Or is it other things? Is it in the Quran? Is the Quran open to a forgiveness prayer? It's just a lot of hokey pokey, a lot of dancing around, and just not a lot of facts, not a lot of what we would hope to see in this case. Just factual evidence. I mean, that's all. I think that's all people are looking for. I don't think they're looking for anything else. So it's pretty sad.
To a traditional forgiveness prayer. And there on the wall, above the bodies, scrawled in blood, the words, Allah Akbar, God is the greatest.
Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. And there it is right there. Now, this is the first time. Remember, this is in January of 2016. This is still early. This is before the sloppy mentor came out or anything like that. This is stuff that was redacted in the original police reports. Later, we got the unredacted versions of those police reports that were missing a couple pages for some reason. So all of this is very interesting too. Now, I guess the alums didn't want, they were trying to pretty much hide this, but that's not the police's job, right? They can, I mean, how can they hide something like this? This is going to come out. And they know that. Even in the 464 photos that we got a little bit later after this, they came out. Now, from what we were told, Tom Lyden was given a lot of photos and documents that he shouldn't have been given. And isn't it interesting that after that, boom, it was like, we didn't really get much. 94 pages, police reports, 464 photos. If we would have stopped there, that's all we would have gotten. I think that's what they were hoping for. Thankfully, that didn't happen. And we had a lot of great people who kept digging and kept asking and got those documents, got the other documents, and all these documents. There's no need to hide the documents. What all they had to do was show us what proved David Crowley guilty. They couldn't do it. They could not give us 13-page report like we've seen in other cases, a 10-page report, a 2-page report, something that says, this is what happened, this is why David is guilty. That's all they had to do. Not withhold evidence like this that we're seeing here. Not try to retract things like we're seeing here that they did. All of the Muslim mention, all the Allahu Akbar, the blood writing mention, they tried to hide that from the public. Why? If David snapped, wouldn't that help your case? Wouldn't that help people see why David, quote unquote, snapped? What kind of a sane person would not write this here? But it was like so far-fetched, or, maybe they really respected the Alam family that much that they wanted to keep them away. Tom Lyden didn't. Put it right out here for everybody. Why do you think Tom Lyden did that? Eric Nelson was not happy that Tom Lyden did this at that time because Eric Nelson's film hadn't come out. Eric Nelson probably wanted to come out there during his film. And that didn't happen. Once this information here came out, I think it changed a lot of people's minds. I think some of them may have realized that they were duped, that they were tricked. And this case took a very bad turn. Very bad turn. And not for truth. And I think there was a lot of issues created. A lot of problems happened within the Gray State Goons once all this came
out. Who wrote Allah Akbar on the wall?
He did.
That is a lie. They cannot prove David Crowley wrote that. He lied right there. Look at his face there. It's the face of somebody who just lied to Tom Lyden and to everybody watching this. A complete lie. Because you can't say that. All right. Let's continue.
In her blood.
Yes.
Why did he do that?
We believe.
Look at that.
That was.
We believe in her blood. See, so they don't know that he did it. That's the first thing. They don't know that David did this. But then he goes on, well, we believe Based on what? You believe this based on what? Doesn't make sense to me.
It's just kind of a parting shot.
A parting shot. Yeah, a parting shot. There it is. It was a parting shot. All right, so I'll stop this one right there. I'll be back next time. We'll talk more about this roasting of Tom Lyden.